What do you think of the Drakari rules, Nate?
I don't give a fuck about the Drakari rules.
Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Age of Sigmar Monday Madness. That's right. Thank you to the raid from the T Sports Network. That was very nice of you. Very much appreciated.
What a bunch of wankers. They can fuck off now.
This is why we don't get as many people tuning in, I think, sometimes, Nathan. So hello, everyone, to my co-host. I'm obviously joined by the gorgeous Nathan Prescott, the immutable James, and of course, as well, so Dan's away, more on that in a moment, but we're joined by Mr. Adam Chucklebutty, our infield reporter, but now coming live from, I assume, one of those like masterclasses you buy off Google.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Even sounds good. Wow.
Really?
Oh.
Jesus. This was 12 quid off Amazon, mate.
Oh,
That's what you want to do. You don't want any of these fancy £800 headsets.
Agreed. James, where was your from?
Mine?
Oh my God.
Mine's from a call centre.
Can I thank everyone in the chat, specifically Nurgle Matthew, for donating 10 gift subscriptions, which is the third time today he's done that. So I just thank you.
What a gent.
Like, what a legend. Sent the great. Nathan probably wants you to say something nice. Do you want to holler at your boy, Nurgle Matthew?
G'day, Nurgle Matthew. Thanks for that. Did you win the lottery or something? Good lad.
Good lad.
I was going to say, splashing all the cash.
Yeah.
Fucking spreading Nurgle's gifts.
I think he's excited about you talking about 40k, so we could just do that. Marty8 Hoyt and Ruscalls, thank you for also resubscribing. That's incredibly lovely of you. What a thoroughly nice chap, agreed. Hope to win the lotto soon, says Tabletop Tinkerer. So, loads to talk about. We're going to talk about the Gravelords. We're going to talk about the ban show we just did. We're going to talk about the news. Deep thank yous to everyone who's tuned in live. If you're listening to the podcast, please do stay hydrated. And if you're one of the YouTube thugs, stop telling me about the crimes you're committing. Like, it's okay you're doing them, but stop leaving evidence in the YouTube comments. They're like, one of them fleeced an orphanage recently. It was just not okay.
Now you're complicit, aren't you?
Yes, they're making me complicit, and I don't want to be a part of it.
But it's too late.
Yeah, you thieving bastard, robbing orphans.
Right, okay, I'm gonna say hello to all you guys and see how you all are, is what I'm gonna do. Adam, let's start with you. How have you been? What's going on?
Oh, I'm great, thank you. What's going on? I've been working all day today. I've had a very busy day, and not had enough time to do enough hobby at all.
What have you been painting recently?
Elves. Luminous. Sorry, Nate.
We replaced one elf player with another elf player.
Mine are alive, though. Mine are alive.
Yeah, yours are alive. Dan's are dead. On why Dan's not here in a moment. James, how have you been? Are you well?
Yeah, super good, super well. I don't really know what I've been up to. Had a fairly busy weekend. Braved IKEA.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, what'd you buy?
I actually some storage for board games because I've got to the point where I have too many and needed somewhere to put them all. So basically like a board game storage device.
Okay, that's nice.
What
do you... Yeah,
basically a cupboard now.
Nice.
Are you describing a cupboard?
What's a cupboard?
Where you keep your board games.
Oh, yes, then one of those.
Good. All right, positive. And okay, good. Nathan, how have you been? You been well?
Yeah, I've been well, thank you. And you?
Good. I'm still a bit like excited because we just did the band show, so I'm still kind of like enthused. I'm just bringing the energy level back down a little bit.
Nice.
But very excited. Then everyone subscribed in the chat. That's gone a bit wild. Not sure what to do with myself. So there's a lot of like, I'm quite damp generally around here. But other than that,
have you just said that the band show was more exciting than me, Nathan, and Adam?
No, equally as exciting. But
Okay, just checking. Just checking.
He's just said the band show made him damp around his nether regions.
That is
actually
true.
all of the regions. If that has
all of them.
Probably not healthy. I'd have that looked at.
Yeah.
Do any of us think I'm the picture of health? Does anyone?
You specifically said it was your nether regions. I want that recorded.
If they yeah. Hold on, let me just tell the note taker. Note taker, you just the lady who's been off screen for months.
Onto the stone tablet.
Right, so hello everyone for joining us live. Thanks very much for doing so. Let's just jump straight into the news. Adam, I'm going to jump to you first with the news. Gravelord's book has come out. How are you feeling about that?
Feel great. Yeah, really excited for everybody who likes zombies. From the sounds of it.
They're pretty good. Ruskles, thanks for donating 1,000 bits in the chat. Okay, you're excited about that. James, how do you feel about the Gravelords? But we're going to go into it in detail in a moment, but what do you think, like, just on the kind of, like, jump off?
I think it looks quite fun. We talked a bit last week, didn't we? I think I'm excited to see, like, a bunch of Horde armies coming out of death again. And the new models are nice. So it'd be nice to see some nicely painted ones. Or some, like, people that put some effort into painting some on a table.
Okay, yeah. I agree with that. I want to thank Hamsfan and Ruskles for donating 1,000 bits each in the chat. So you've all gone wild in the chat, which is really, really fun. Don't worry, don't worry, Dave, who's saying I have that effect on people. That's fine. Nathan, how do you feel about the Gravelords before we get into it? Just top level for a moment, because it leads into a piece of news I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay. I think it's quite a fun book. I bet it's wound up the people that were avid death players, because they've just chopped a load of rules, haven't they? Inexplicably. So yeah, I bet it looks like a fun book, but I can see that it's probably not a powerhouse. There we go. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So the news that I want to lead into, which is the hot goss, is that we saw yesterday on pre-order some of the Cursed City models have returned from the grave.
This is just fire.
I wrote, by the way, I wrote that joke down specifically. I was like, don't forget to make the return from the grave joke. So really happy with that. Just going to give myself a tick. It's the only show note I have. Just that one. James, talk to me about it. How do you feel about that?
I feel like it was a bad time to release that set of models.
Why? Thank you very much to Lord Whale for donating £5.62 to the chat. What up? That's fucking cool of you. And Dwarf Penguin for gifting a gift subscription to Ellis in the chat. That's lovely of you. And to Queekster. Wow, you're all being very nice today. I don't know what I did or what we did. I think it's because Adam's on, because look how fucking good he looks. Svelte.
Yeah.
Stuck his hair back, put his tight t-shirt on.
That's how he always dresses.
That's true.
And does his hair. Lucky
Looks
bastard.
really
He's got hair.
Is that what you're jealous of?
Yeah, sure.
James, what's wrong with it? Why do you think it's the wrong time to release it?
Well, I mean, we did some of them live review shows, didn't we? And all people kind of wanted was a drop set of the board game that came from. There's been no comment, nothing about it. And then they were like, oh, but here's the models that you might have just spent a fortune on eBay for.
Adam, you're normally our so we have a WhatsApp chat for the Honest Wargamer show hosts. You're normally our positive energy. James is a salt mine in that chat. That's all he does.
That's me. Also, this I'd just like to point out I wasn't, and then this show and these Twitch viewers made me play a Khorne army.
Ooh. I mean, you can't really blame the Khorne army, can you? Let's be honest.
Adam, you're normally upbeat about this. How do you feel about the release of this? Do you feel it's a bit tone deaf in the current climate, or you're not bothered?
Not really. I actually think it's a good opportunity for the people that wanted the models to now actually get the models. They can't get the game. That's a bit of a bummer, but you'll probably find it does appear at some point. It'll be a mini box that maybe has a small selection of models. But if people were proper falling over themselves, desperate to get the models, now they can get them. I don't know why people would be like really upset that they can now get some models. I don't understand.
I think I'm with you. I think the entire thing passed me by. But Nathan, have you got any vibes on it? Feels? How you picturing this situation?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people out there that are pissed off more about the box set than access to the models, because they want to access that game, and they want the game supported. So yeah, but I mean, all it points out is that it wasn't withdrawn because of anything to do with the models and the plastic. So maybe something else in the box was a problem, because the plan was that it was going to be supported because that's what they said it was, and then now it's not. So some things happened, but it's not anything to do with like a broken mold or anything like that. So it's probably something else to do with, I don't know, the cardboard or the pictures on the box or something.
Well,
maybe they've run out of little kids to draw the pictures on the box or something. I don't know.
I reckon Nathan's probably got it.
Yeah. Maybe the kids have grown up. Yeah. That's it. Now
maybe it took them so long
pictures.
and now they're old and they've left.
Yeah. Exactly.
In the chat, both War Machine and Dwarf Penguin say that it's Chinese cardboard. It costs more than meth at the moment. So the cursed sweatshop is what it really should have been called. Okay, yeah, that's good. All right, well, I don't know, like, if it's an issue. I saw some tweets about it, but like, whatever. It doesn't.
I'd love to get. Sorry, I'd love to just get of everybody in the chat. There's nearly 200 of you in the chat. How many of you didn't get a copy of Curse City? How many of you didn't that were trying to get it and wanted to get it at the time? How many of you didn't get it?
It's a great question. I didn't want it because specifically, like, I mean, also, like, one of the nice things that we have to be complimentary about, that, like, it's all of that is like a big unit. All these people didn't get one. So is the me I didn't get one? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Me too. Is that what we're going for right now? I don't think it is.
Hashtag me too. But the I think more people. I mean, a lot of people have got it. I managed to get it, so it couldn't have been that hard. And so, because I had to use the computer machine to get it, and they suck dick at the moment. So, but I think I'm more wound up the fact that it might not have expansions and stuff coming up, which would have been fun, because the main reason I got it was because I've got that Zombicide game, and I enjoyed it that much. I thought, well, this is a Games Workshop equivalent. It'll be a similar sort of game. And like with Zombicide, you can go on the internet and find extra scenarios once you've played all the ones in the book. That comes in the box. And then there are expansion sets. You can chuck in some green horde dudes and stuff like that. And I thought, well, it'd be cool if I thought that's a similar sort of thing that was going to happen in this case. And it doesn't look like that's the case. So,
yeah.
I mean, fair enough. You can make up your own scenarios, which I probably will do. Once I've finished the ones in the book. But yeah.
You're going to make up some scenarios. Question, because I think that I speak for 1,000 people who are right now punching their screens and or screaming into the night sky. Will we get Nathan Prescott written scenarios that we can play through? Because I don't know about anyone else, but I will play the fuck out of them.
Yeah, the heroes have to go and rescue some little Chinese children that are colouring in boxes.
Okay. I think the Twitch chat are very... I want them. Yes. Ruskles is all about that. Trug the Best, thanks for resubscribing at that particular moment in the stream. Only through Nathan's OnlyFans account. That's how we'll get the information. Okay.
I'd back that. I would totally back that. I'd be all over that
too. It would be really good. All right, so that's the kind of hot goss. I guess the other two, like, that's all the news stories. Although James, you played a game recently. Talk to me about that.
I did play a game with our previous or former co-host. He's on retirement at the moment due to his
secondment.
Epic performance in that game.
Is that why he's not here? What is the reason he's not here? Tell the truth. Well,
his actual reason for not being here is, as we've talked about on the show before, that Dan does some filming. And what he's currently doing is practicing his filming in countries around the world secretly because he's going to be the new videographer for Nathan's OnlyFans.
That's right. We can
High
announce
quality
live
content incoming.
live on this show. High quality content coming soon. Not that the content that's on there is not high quality, Nathan. It's just you keep filming your foot. Like, you know, and there are some people who want to see that, but most people don't, is the kind of takeaway. Yeah, so he's busy, is what he's doing. But yeah, you played a game against him. How'd it go?
I did. And well, I had to play the Corn Army. The chat made me play.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan had to play the Stormkeep Patrol that the chat also made him play. And for 2 turns, realistically, nothing happened. Because the army that Dan had and the army that I did realistically nothing. And Bloodthirsters are just terrible unless you roll 6s on those wound rolls on that big axe lad. So for 2 turns, nothing happened. And then somehow, after rolling no 6s to wound for 2 rounds of combat, or 4 rounds of combat, I guess, on my 3rd turn, I somehow got 20 more wounds from the 2 Bloodthirsters I had left.
How are they still alive?
Well, 2 died very quickly, and then I had enough command points to make them fight at full strength. So I think one had 3 wounds and one had 5 wounds. And I was like, cool, I'll just pay and we'll fight. And then it was like, oh, this one's done 12 mortal wounds. Most things are dead. And then I was like, oh, this one has just done another like 8 mortal wounds. Oh, your whole army's dead. And then it was fine. And then like enough stuff had died that I just put another Bloodthirster down because it was the only models I had left really on TTS. So I just cloned one because I couldn't be bothered to find another.
That's how I do something as well. What have I got to hand, I guess? Okay, well, it sounds like a fun game. Has it convinced you that maybe Khorne is the army for you?
Not in a million years. I have to say, I was trying to talk to Owen about it because Owen's been pumped about the fact that I'm playing Khorne and might gain some love for it. And I think there's probably some more fun things in that book. But like that list I've got basically doesn't have a shooting page other than 1 whip attack. Doesn't have a hero phase. So luckily last night it was quite useful because obviously Dan is in Canada and we started our game at 10 to midnight.
Right. So it's quite late.
Yeah. And we managed to do 5 whole turns by just before 2 a.m.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive. I mean, to be fair, he just deploys his whole army in front of you and then you hit it, right? That's how that works.
He was a bit scared because I got to choose who went first. So he deployed kind of in front of me. I let him go first. Double turned him and was like, this is it. These Bloodthirsters are going to go off. Did nothing. Lost most of them. And then the turn after they went off.
Skills.
Yeah, big skills. Right, okay. Adam, you haven't had any opportunity to play any games recently, right? Like, so you've been painting up, like you said you're painting elves, but specifically what elves and why?
Lumineth, and that's because I actually don't have any Stormcast at the moment, with the exception of some Underworld's warbands. But I've been building up my Lumineth just gradually. I've got the big dickless elf, as Tuggy calls him. So I've got Techless and a few other choice ones. I'm looking up there because they're up there, by the way. I'm not just looking
into the sky.
Not just weirdly looking away. But yeah. So just building that up. I really like the army. I love the aesthetics of them. I might get to a table and decide I hate them, but the only games I've managed to play are the ones with the Lumineth list that chat managed to choose for me on the Honest Wargamer ass kicking, which has been quite good. Against Nathan, that was great, wasn't it, Nath?
Yeah, I couldn't kill them. And then the next game, I watched you, and they were all dead. I was like, "What happened? I couldn't kill any of them."
He literally couldn't kill. So the list, for anybody who doesn't know, it's 3. So it's a Valinor, which is a big cow mountain, plus 3 more of those. Or was it 3? Yeah, 3 more of those. So it's 4 of the big cow mountains, and some wardens and a stone mage. That's it. It's fun though. It's great fun. It's and some stone guard as well to make it right. And that when you get into combat with something, they're fun. but if you get forced to walk the long way around, like Darren did to me in the last game, they get shot off by steam tanks, which isn't fun.
If you lost to steam tanks, that's great.
I just couldn't get to him. I'm just walking 6 inches every fucking turn, not able to get to him. And he'd thrown a massive dragon at me because that was the scenario we're playing, which ate through. Why? Because of the amount of wounds I did to the dragon, it does mortal wounds back at you. So I lost two of the cow mountains to that. And yes, entertaining.
How would you rate the effectiveness of the cow mountain list? This is a trap, by the way.
This is a trap.
Yeah,
It's a trap.
it's a trap.
Effectively, like I wouldn't take it to a tournament. Certainly not.
Because today, I was looking at the results actually from last week. It was last weekend in the stat show today. If you guys want to go back and watch it, I was looking at a list that went 3-0. It was a one-dayer, but it was between 50 people in Australia, and again in Australia as well. So pinch of salt. But but 3 and James, don't laugh. It's like the Australian guys get it. When I say that, they're like, "Oh yeah, fair dinkum." Yeah, we get that.
That mountain list is good. I reckon it could do that.
Tell me why.
Well, the Australian one's slightly different though, isn't it? Because hasn't it got 20 or 40 sentinels or something in it, and it's only got 3 of the cow mountains.
Yes, it has. It's got Alvalanor and then two of the cow mountains, and a stone mage.
Yeah.
And a stone mage, yeah.
They ignore Rend pretty much, and they just you just run them up. Can't you make stuff go faster in that book as well?
Depending if you've got a go faster wizard, but
Yeah.
I don't think Chuckles had a go fast wizard.
Yeah. If that's the problem, then have a go faster wizard, and you can teleport now as well, can't you? So
again, you need the teleport wizard.
Yeah.
They're all different.
no problem. Get those lads, and then off you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
'Cause
I agree with you.
They got a huge bubble of -1 to hit, which is a pain in the arse.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do hit them, stuff just bounces off. So yeah.
And they hit back pretty hard.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. Yeah, they're
Right.
great. I think I'm definitely going to find a couple of the cow mountains, and I'm going to buy a couple of them and add them to my list. But I don't I'm not entirely sure I'd go that heavy into them. And I like the idea of the sentinels in with it, because then you've got a little bit of range support, if only just to keep people out of your way while you march up to them.
They seem fine. I think one of the main issues is putting the cow mountains in is okay, but if you then take Stone Guard, you don't really have the raw output, which I think is why we saw the sentinels going there, because they've got a pretty good shooting attack as well. So I think that's one of the things that we see quite often. Can we get Nathan for all list reviews? Yeah, no problem. It's in the bank. We've been doing it for 4 years. They're all pretty much Nathan reviews, and we're just here, if that helps. Right, Gorka Walker, I'm happy for you getting to play a game tomorrow for the first time in real life in a year. A lot of people getting to get their first games in real life at some time soon. So I wanted to ask you three, based in the UK, have you guys got your first real life game planned, or have you already done it out of lockdown? Nathan, have you been in a garden planning on doing any games?
No, I'm going in a garden next weekend. Is it the weekend after? That's coming.
That's
Yeah.
Secret.
That's a secret. I can't tell anybody about that. So pretend you didn't hear that. No, that's all I've got lined up at the moment. Just busy at work at the moment, so I haven't had time to.
But when you do get to play, what are you thinking of playing? Talk to
Right,
me.
yeah. I've got a list in mind. I've got to paint up one more Ale Guzzler, Ale Guzzler Gargant, and then I'll be ready. So it's going to be a Gloomspike Gits list with One-Eyed Gronick as a mercenary dude. And then
I know everyone knows, but just in the off chance, because Adam's face is like, what the fuck is he talking about? Could you just tell everyone who One-Eyed Gronick is?
One-Eyed Gronick is a War Stomper Mega Gargant that you can ally in. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And then he's got his mate Two-Eyed Gronick with him, who is a loon boss on foot. And then they're going to go and lead an army of 3 Ale Guzzler Gargants, a load of Squigs, and some little gits with stabbers, and some other gits with snuffling mushroom truffles, squig things.
Nice.
It's going to be great.
There's a load of questions in the chat, but is there a Gobblepalooza in the list?
Oh yes, and a Gobblepalooza. Fuck, I forgot about them. Yes, so there'll be Shrewmancer, Boggle-Eye, and all of those lads.
No. You're not getting off without naming them all.
Yeah, you got to name everyone.
Oh, all right. So Boggle-Eye and Brugit, Spiker, and Shrewmancer, and the last guy is called Scaremonger. Yeah, the one that there's actually two of them. The last guys are called Scaremonger or Scaremonger.
That really sounds like a Christmas Carol at some point. I don't know about you, but Chuckleberry, I can 100% see like an almost Grinch style Christmas story with Nathan just describing on Boggle-Eye on Blitz.
Oh, we should do it. We need to get on that.
Yeah, that's a great video. It needs to be made at some point. All right, well that's exciting. I don't get to play any games because I'm sorting out the arena before the Super Series match that we have got on Sunday, which is pretty exciting. Obviously, I just coming off the ban phase. Did you guys happen to catch it, or do you want me to? Should we talk through it now and kind of see what you guys think? Because I'd like to talk to you guys about it.
Oh, well, we better say yes then.
Well, I mean, you don't have to. You can say no.
What if we say no? What are we going to talk about instead?
I mean, the audience are furious, but we just all get to go home much quicker, so it's kind of it depends how much you want to annoy about him on the show.
I never want to annoy chat or our audience. I love them all.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk about it then. So, did you guys happen to catch the ban phase or not?
I did not, sadly, but I have had a cheeky look at what was banned.
Oh, nice. Okay, Nate, did you catch it? I know you caught it, Chuckles. I think.
Yes, I did. I saw. I think I saw most of it. I saw that banned a War Stomper.
Yeah.
But does that mean you can't take One-Eyed Grunnock?
He's not a War Stomper, he's a named character.
You can't take named characters.
No, you can take named characters, but
you can.
not. They're different War Scrolls, aren't they?
Well, yeah.
In essence.
Yeah, in essence.
In essence. Not
Good.
like they're factually the same, but like in essence. Yeah, well, to go through it, if anyone didn't happen to catch the show earlier on the T-Sports Network, so this Sunday is round 2 of the Super... Well, not round 2. Match 2 of round 1 of the Super Series. And then what happens is both teams ban 5 different units which can't be used in list writing. And some of the interesting bits is we didn't see any of like what I would consider to be the major threats. Archeon, Seraphon, untouched completely. I'm really hoping we see some big stuff. I'll go through them and then we'll kind of see. So the first ban that came out was Doomfire Warlocks, which seemed to me to be a safety ban so that they could run Daughters of Cain.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree. Safety ban, but they've also left it so that you can't really say, they're pigeonholing their list one way or the other. So you can't really plan if you're up against snakes or hordes or Marathi or what you're up against. Because the thing they've banned is something that you would probably never see anyway.
Poor Doomfire Warlocks.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad. The Shadowkeep Patrol, which is a War Squad battalion which they're inside of, like, they could be inside of, is genuinely good. But, like, Marathi and the Bow Snakes are just very good. Very.
I heard them play the other night, actually. It was a little indie club. It was great. They were great.
Marathi and the Bow Snakes. They just really went too commercial after the first album. That's what really bothered me.
Are the Bow Snakes battle line? Could they get banned?
The Bow Snakes are not battle line.
Okay.
They're conditional battle line. If you take the Iron Scale Meliusai as your general.
So you could ban them then?
You could ban them. Ban them. They're going to be very potent in meta, like when everyone gets back to playing. Like that 1 CP spent to they're Brick of 15 and that 1 CP command ability from Marathi is just horrific because you can't kill Marathi and you can't get to the Bow Snakes easily turn 1. And so then they're just shooting twice, which is a lot of shots. It's 2 shots each, so it's 30 shots. Is it 3s and 3s around 1/1 damage? And Immortals, any 6s hit as a mortal wound, so it's 60 shots. So they just blitz stuff. It's wild. It's an expensive, it's 1,000 points just from Marathi and the 15
but
snakes.
you can just do it with the Slaughter Queen, can't you, as well?
No. Yes, you can. You can actually, yeah. But it's harder to do. Okay, so that's the Doomfire Warlocks. Then the second bands that came in from the Marauders were the Big Stabbers, and this is the one I wanted to ask you about, the Gunstrok Thunderers. The Thunderers. Because that's really interesting, because normally, if you were looking to ban KO, you would ban the Ironclad, is what I would say. That's pivotal.
Well, so the only battle line, so the only thing that you can't ban in the KO book is the Arcanauts, because all the other battle line is conditional.
Yeah, conditional. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So it does leave the KO book open, doesn't it?
Very.
Yeah.
But also, normally you see the Thunderers as part of a KO build.
Yeah. But normally, if you see the Thunderers, then they're taking the Ironclad, because then they go in the Ironclad. So I think if you see a KO build without the Thunderers, it's more likely to be the Frigate build.
Just a bunch of boats.
Frigates and Arcanauts, with the attack squadron, so that they can disembark whenever they want out of there, and they charge 3d6. So pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So in the chat, JJ, big love to him. Great video of you rolling some dice at Warhammer World today. Can we just talk about JJ has a belt at the moment? This is maybe something for everyone getting back, maybe something to pick up off Bezos in the Amazon. It looked like a powder bag that you would do if you were rock climbing. So it's kind of like attached to your belt and it's kind of on the side. But it was full of dice, and then he was just rolling it. And I don't know if that's a fashion accessory I think maybe we should all take up. How do you guys feel about it? James, you don't seem confident.
Well, I have like a giant grandma's hat of dice, don't I now? I think you've seen it. Might have seen it. But it's full of dice. And when I was playing my Zinch, the few outside games I've played with them, I've got to this horrific habit where I have all my dices counted out. So they're color-coded. So I'll have 20 yellow dice, 20 blue dice, 10 green dice, 10 red dice, so that when I'm going to roll 30 shots, I know I'm like, there's 20 of those guaranteed, there's 10 of those. So then I have like a huge dice bag, because it just makes life easier.
You sound like you're really fun at parties.
Just amazed.
There are 18 Doritos each. If you have any more than that, you're gone.
That is more dip than I was allocating to you to have at
4
the
mil of dip
party.
each. Barry, come on. It's always Barry, isn't it?
Look, I'm not a corn player every day of the week. I have to be organised. I don't only roll 4 dice and only hit with 50% of them.
So JJ says in the chat, it was a chalk bag made for a UK company from recycled climbing gear. Good shit. So that's really nice. And everyone in the chat talking about the fact that Thunder is a conditional battle line, and Gorkamore thinks with Thunderers are such a big chunk of the output gone. Plymouth Troll Slayers is guest at the list. He thinks he's going to see List, Big War, KO, Lumineth, and Seraphon. So I think that's very interesting. What do you, Adam? How do you feel about the Big Stabbers and the Thunderers? The Big Stabbers, I think, is a clear safety ban, so that you can bring Big War or any. I mean, so you can bring a Big War list. How do you feel about the KO stuff? Have you been keeping up with generally how KO plays?
In detail, not a huge amount. I just in general, the whole ban thing. I don't know if how many other people in chat are fairly new to it. But if you've not watched it, it's super exciting. But the really interesting thing is the safety bans for me. I love the idea that somebody's banned a shit unit that you're never going to want to use, just so they can guarantee, right, I really want to bring Marathi, for instance, by banning Doomfire Warlocks. Banning Techless, is that another safety ban? Is that another thing where they've gone, do you know what, I've got this really cool list I want to run. It doesn't include Techless, let's just fucking ban him, because then we force the opposition to have to do something different as well.
I think safety bans make loads of sense in round 1. I think when we get to round 2, like so the semi-finals and the final, I think it's going to be some hot goss then because the players. I think it's fair to say that I think both the Bruces and the Troll Slayers in round 1 were like bringing their softer and/or other lists. So like trying to scrape through round 1 so you can push through into round 2. I think is a sign. Tech lists. Adam, you're a big fan of this big boy. The stats actually support the fact that tech lists, like non-Techlian builds, so builds without tech lists, do better than with tech lists. I personally think he's detracts from the potential win rate of a Lumineth army. Do you feel any different? You got any thoughts on that?
I think you can make some much more interesting lists. I think you can make some more versatile lists. If you obviously if you take tech lists up against another magic heavy army, then you kind of or if somebody could just target him and just take him out. The second he's gone, that is your entire army built around the one thing just falls apart. So there's a lot more flexibility in lists that don't have him in there, and I've certainly been building a lot more lists that don't really include him. They only include him at the moment because he's painted, but yeah, I love the idea of the super fast wind charger boys and girls.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't want to know what any of this is, if you just look for our YouTube, which is the T Sports Network YouTube, maybe someone in the chat can go find it for you. You can go and watch some videos that will explain all of it to you, if that helps you out. Nathan, no tech list in the list, and also the Ghoul King on Terror guys felt like a target straight at Tony. But the tech list build, one of the things I find interesting about tech list, if I'm allowed to go on one for a second, is that you think he's a magic dom, and this is what I'm talking to you, Nath, because you're really into doms and not doms.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think he's a magic dom, but it actually is the reverse. If he's up against it in kind of like the magical battles, like we've seen some games and we've seen some coverage, one of the things that I find quite fascinating is that he's so inherently, he's so necessary to use to get protection of tech lists up for that 5-up DPR army wide. It's so important he does that when he's in this magic battle, you're paying basically the points, I would think, almost all of the time to get that bubble up. That's where all of those points are spent. And then in addition, you can spend 2 CP. In addition, you could do Technado. All that stuff is like the stuff that's additional, whereas I think that's vital. So as soon as you go up against like another strong caster, then actually they're like, cool, I'm just going to auto-cast Protection of Tech List, and you basically spend 600 points doing not much else. That's how I think about it. I don't know if you got any thoughts on it.
Not really. I've not really thought about lists of tech lists, because surprise. So I don't really know what to say. Other than that, you could probably make a team list better with tech lists, because you can match him up so he's not fighting. It's mainly Slan, isn't it, that you're worried about? So yeah, just make sure he's not up against those lads, and then he should be all right. Possibly Zinch, but they're both armies that you're probably going to be facing. So I don't know. I should think in bigger team formats, there's a case for taking a techless build, but then there's probably better lists in the Lumineth book for team formats anyway. If you take a Sentinel heavy list, because team lists are quite often skewed, aren't they? So you could take a skewed list with just gazillions of bloody Sentinels or something, or wind chargers or something like that, and that would be skewed enough to give you a matchup choice. But like I say, I think there's an argument for a techless list in teams. So there we go. It'd be interesting to hear what the Marauders give their reason for the techless ban, if they do, on the weekend after they've had their matches. What their thinking was behind that, or if
Well,
they,
it wasn't.
yeah.
It wasn't by the Marauders. It was actually Legio 9. They were the
Oh,
ones who banned.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe because we're seeing Smashbat. If any of you are not sure what Smashbat is, it's a really souped up Vargulf who can do with the Bilious Decanter. We've talked about it on the show a little bit before, but basically you can just absolutely soup up one nuclear Vargulf basically and send him like a. It's 2 on topic, so we won't talk about that. But yeah, you can send him at the enemy basically, which is fairly useful. Gawking on Terrorgeist, I think, was just a targeted ban. And then, come on, are we not, James? Are you not happy? No more Sargard.
Always a good day.
Yeah.
Always a good day.
Very happy that there's no more Sargard. Adam, you still happy to see Eels years later, or less bothered now?
I think we're all a bit bored of them, aren't we? I think it's a good thing. Get rid.
Get rid. Like, thinking of instituting a TO ban where I just straight out ban them, like just round one.
Well, you just gotta have some base bans.
Yeah,
You can't ban
get
these
this one
'cause
out of the
they're
way.
already
Could you know in so the next pack you write for the Super Series,
Yeah.
is there gonna be like a moderated part where you're just like the crab can never be banned?
Of course. Of
Good.
course, the crab.
Just
can
wanted
never
to
be banned.
check. Best
Of
model.
course. Yeah, and you can also never ban the Gobblepalooza. Like, that's in there as well.
You technically won't be able to ban the crab anyway, right? Because the leader will be a named character, and the other guys have to go with him.
No,
you
the leader's the
ban
crab.
him. Yeah. You can. Right, so then the War Stomper band, which I think was weird, but maybe... I think it was weird. Cancel culture comes for Eels.
Is the War Stomper not the one that kicks terrain apart?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's the one-eyed Granic one. So yeah, it's the one you. I don't know, because it started off with the Kraken Eater being the most popular because he's the one that can kick the objective around, and then I think the Gatekeeper, the Gate Breaker has become a very popular choice because he's got potentially higher damage output, so he's quite.
I think in a team tournament too, the Giants is scary, right? Because into certain matchups they're hard to shift and they're 30 on an objective.
Yeah, I mean the War Stomper tribe is very good against hordes. So if you are bringing a lot of hordes, then you might want to stop them coming, but I don't know. The only other thing is that it's a safety ban because you want to take Kraken Eaters or Gate Breakers.
So War Stompers are never taken in competitive lists. The competitive lists that we do see are Gate Breakers. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3 Gate Breakers, because they can just do the most damage. Normally a Gate Breaker with the Rage Blade is generally what you tend to see. But we're not using the Realms, so maybe we're not going to see the Rage Blade. I don't think we're going to see Gargants at all. I think maybe they saw that as a problem. If they were looking to build more like MSU style lists, that can be problematic if you can't generate a load of damage into a singular place into into Gargants generally to take them down. There can be a problem as a DPS check. But the War Stomper getting a kick in is interesting. It could just be a meme, right?
Is there somebody on from Legio 9? Is there somebody that is quite famous to love the old destruction big fellas?
Well, everyone, right? Everyone's kind of picked up some of the Gargants. It's an outward pick, maybe.
Yeah, but it's the most unusual one to pick if you're going to try and stop them taking.
Because it's not the one you take. That's my point.
But maybe it's a clever ban. Because, then I'm like, oh, they've banned the one I wouldn't take, so that means they're taking them. So then you write an anti-giant list, and then there's no giants.
But according to everybody, every list is an anti-giant list.
I honestly, I think they're strong. I think they're strong into certain lists, and then I think there's certain lists that they probably can never win.
Yeah, I think there's a good Kraken Eater list in team format. So it'll be interesting to see.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Winner Dave says, none of us are famous. We're channeling that sweet, sweet average Joe energy, which is a good energy to have. Yeah, Hawkeye says it's a double bluff. Yeah, I mean, we've to give them their due. The Mega Gargants have performed okay, well, fairly well, 4 1s and 3 2s at some events in Australia recently. It's not bad, to be fair, Adam. Like, it's not out the gate Sinesh or Skaven or FEC or Zenith or Seraphon, like, at initial release. But they're definitely not the 0-5 I was predicting. So, you know.
Are they upper middle then? Are they sort of this area?
What, towards the gut?
Middle?
Top of the guts?
Are they closer towards like the moobs area?
Yeah, just under moob. Is that what?
Yeah,
just under moob.
Round the belly button sort of area.
Oh, is it? Is it a bit lower down? Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Depends whether it's pierced or not.
Let's move on. Apparently they're pure gut. Or the side moob action. And then the final one was the Exalted Flamers. Was another one. Necromancer as well, so just targeting straight off. That pretty much kills off Legions of Nagashi if you're planning on taking them anyway. Because it's Van Hell's Dance Macabre, which is going to be very relevant in the Soulblight Gravelords book, but it's a spell that allows you to pile an attack twice, which is pretty commonly taken, and in most of those sorts of lists. I'm not even certain it's vital, but it's a targeted ban into that anyway, which I think is interesting. And then the Exalted Flamers, instead of just regular Flamers, which I thought weird. My friend Joe Cryer, he thinks that it's like a more summoned unit and it's more viable. And there are builds that are just pure Exalted Flamers as a build.
It's a cheap. I think it's a cheap unit to summon, isn't it? In that book, it's a cheap unit to summon, and its output for its summoning points is strong, and it also buffs regular Flamers. So you're kind of shutting them down too, aren't you?
Sorry. So, quick question. So, as it's banned, you can't even summon it then?
No.
Okay. Good. Interesting.
Yeah. I would have just banned the Flamers instead of being fancy, but then that's interesting. Like, people, I think that some of the teams have put a lot of thought into it, so it's really nice and a bit niche as well, because it gives you loads of Archeon builds still. It gives you Flamers if you want to take Flamers. Feels like Exalted Flamers being banned is like, maybe we're bringing Flamers. Like, because you can still bring Flamers, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's close enough that it's like a bluff. You're like, oh, maybe you think these are better than regular Flamers, but maybe you're bringing Flamers. Like, is it a cheek? But then you can still run Archeon and Host Duplicitous, which has got a mental win rate. Yeah? Like, it's a mental good. So, that'd be interesting if we see Archeon, because he's available for both teams, actually. And then finally, Be'lakor. Old Be'lakor. Banned. So, there'll be no Be'lakors, which is it's a nice...
Got my new model, but I can't use it.
Well, it's currently, because there's no FAQ out for Be'lakor yet. Not that Be'lakor itself needs really any FAQing at all, I don't really think. But that book hasn't been FAQ'd, so obviously we only operate that. It needs to have had an FAQ to operate the book. So yeah, that's a good ban, Be'lakor, always, because it's so good inside of a list, I would say, all the time. And I think even the new one's great. I think even the new one is really solid. I was speaking to Vince last week when I was on his show, and he was saying that it's really upticked the power level of Sinesh army by just having a better Be'lakor in its list.
Have you seen, just talking to Vince and Be'lakor, have you seen his
really pretty.
painted?
Really pretty, yeah. Really pretty. Yeah. Okay. So, overall, what did you think of them? The bands?
There's some interesting ones in there. There's some that are probably more targeted. I mean, we're taking out like 2 death models, and obviously Tony Moore, big death player. And then there's some in there that I think at some point it'll be really interesting to hear why those orc lads with the big spear, big stabbers, why they got banned. Why the Exalted Flamer? So I think there's for me there's some real kind of probably interesting conversation in there to what happened, and it'll be obviously exciting as we see the list kind of drop, and then we get to be like, oh, now it makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does. It does. Mm-hmm. Does Nathan, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, other than they were quite unusual. I doubt very many people guessed that those things were coming.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. Adam, what do you think? Did some of them like shock you or not?
I was surprised, and I'd love to kind of hear the reasoning why you all think this is the case. But how come Croak and Archaon weren't banned?
Because they want to take them.
Is it as simple as that? So both teams are probably going to want to take them. So they're like, why banning that?
Yeah, but if they were that desperate for instance, to take Croak, then you would think, oh, they would ban Croxicore or something like that to make sure that Croak could go. So, yeah.
Yeah, you could. I think one of the things is that they don't even have to necessarily bring Seraphon. Not forgetting that this is round 1, so they might want to play. They want to play close to their chest what maybe some of their big lists are. But people already know what the big lists are. So, Croak, Skinks, Salamanders, I would expect to see them on both teams. I think that's one of the interesting things about the team format. You would expect to see them. Whether or not you do or you don't, I would think I still would expect to see each. I don't know. I'm hyped for the list reveal show because I'm kind of I'm wondering what they're all planning. I think that's nice being part of that process. So yeah, that was it. So we'll find out on Friday is what we'll do. We'll find out on Friday what the lists were or what the lists are going to be. So that'll be fun. So yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Should we talk about Gravelords?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's talk about Gravelord. So the book came out, and have you guys, Adam, have you picked anything up about it at all? Have you looked into it so far, or that's not where it's at?
Yeah, I watched. I was watching the show the other day when you were going through. I can't remember what day it was, but it was
every day, I think.
Enlightening. I think you were going through on your own. It must have been Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
No, it was good, and I've listened to a couple of other little bits and looked around on the interwebs, and it's interesting. There's some conflicting opinions about a few things, I think, but
oh no,
okay.
It's coming, isn't it? I'm waiting for you to play a video.
I'm not. No, we're not playing the video anymore.
Okay.
No. So as to not be accused of targeting anyone or being mean. God's sakes. You can't have fun apparently, so that's fine. Yeah, I agree with you. There is some consternation about some of the units. I think generally the book has been well received ish in that it's not seen as poor maybe as the Sinesh book. I think that there are some positives from the book as well, but that there are also some negatives. So it's not a home run of everything's brilliant. There are some problems inside of the book. Maybe some of the War Scrolls aren't quite as exciting as maybe they could have been, and also maybe there's been a lot of copy and paste and some weird targeted nerfs 3 years later. It's a weird Legion of Nagash book 2, and then when everyone finally stopped playing it, they were like, do you know what, we'll sort that problem out from 3 years ago. That's what we'll do, which is a weird take. Nathan, I know you've been absorbing some of the thoughts and feelings about it. How do you feel about it so far?
I think it's quite a mixed book because there are some really cool, interesting things in there. For instance, like the zombie war scroll and stuff. And then there's just some weird ones, like some of the heroes that have got no command abilities, or they're not spell casters or anything. They're just like heroes. They don't have any buffing abilities, which is unusual for a hero. So
I think specifically you're talking about Kritza and also the Lady Vamp, right?
Yeah, those two. And then it's just like some of the war scrolls just seem a bit light on rules, which normally I'd be okay with. I mean, there's quite a lot of rules bloat, I think, in the game, especially for new people coming into it. But then we've just had the Lumineth book out, and you can't really say that it's a trend. They're not slimming down on rules with them, are they?
God no.
God no.
So yeah, I think it's a fun book, but there are some weird scrolls on there.
I think that's fair. Can I just thank Noxifero for subscribing for the first time? Welcome to the gang, and Chris for subscribing. Came for the War Dolly, stayed for the beards. Thanks very much. James has got a particular. James, you watched The Lighthouse, the movie?
I have not.
I don't. It's awful. Like truly a bunch of filmmakers sniffing their own farts is what it is. But you kind of look like one of the main characters. The thing about it is, I lost myself. It's brilliant, you scrub. It's not brilliant. Okay, fine. Host challenge. All of the chat, Nathan, Adam, and James. By next week, let's have watched The Lighthouse. Do you want to? It's got great reviews. It's got. We'll take a tangent for a second. Let's do this. The Lighthouse movie. All right, let's just see what its review is. Here.
7.5 on
7.5 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 90%. Metacritic gives it an 83. Go on, I dare you to watch it.
What do
It's
I
Willem
watch it
Dafoe.
on?
Willem Dafoe,
It's
Robert
William
Pattinson.
Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in a lighthouse, in black and white, in 4:3 for 2 hours.
I mean, I quite like both of those, so I'm game. I'm up with that.
Fine. Go on then. James, do you dare?
Maybe. I'm debating going to the cinema for the first time in 2 years or whatever it is tomorrow to watch
What are you
Mortal
going to
Kombat.
go see?
That's a great choice.
I've avoided watching it illegally like everyone else in the world. Just to go to the cinema.
Can't you do like a home cinema thing?
Yeah, but I love the cinema.
Yeah, me too. I didn't know they're open again. That's exciting.
As of today, I think. I want the dirty nachos with the dirty cheese. That's what I want.
Okay.
What's your cinema of choice? What's your like?
Oh no! Now I'm going to sound like a pretentious wanker.
Go for it.
I go to an Odeon Lux with the big reclining chairs.
Yeah, they're amazing.
We have.
I went to one of those for Force Awakens, and I had a stinking cold, and I ruined everybody's film.
Wow. We have a local one called Broadway where you're allowed to take your pint in or your cup of tea.
Nice.
Yeah. It's quite nice actually. All right, Nate, will you watch The Lighthouse? Maybe. I know you're busy.
No.
You've probably not got time.
No, I hate those films that have got loads of Rotten Tomatoes.
All right, okay, let's get back on track then, because if any of you watch it next week, we'll talk about it. The chat are divided on this particular issue, which is fine. All right, back to the book, and I've lost where we were. Yes, I think there are some positives in that some of the War Scrolls are really cool, and some of the War Scrolls don't seem to have as much on them, which I think is kind of interesting. Specifically, some of the characters. I think the jury's out on the Vangori Lords. I'm not a huge fan of either of the Vangori Lords, so whether or not that's the Mother of Dragons or whatever her name is, or even the Scroll Caddy variant, so the Vangori Lord just base, the non-named character, not a big fan. Although an interesting kind of take, he's got a really cool little ability, which is that units within 3 inches, they reduce their rend by 1, which I think is quite a cool little trick. And we also see a lot of armor saves across the army. So Blood Knights, they've got 3-up armor save. They can easily get a +1 to that save. There are also most of the other armored units, so most of the Vampire Lords on dragons and stuff, they're 3-up saves as well. So they could go to 2-ups. So my question is, Adam, because you're quite excited about 2-up armor saves, right?
Always.
Yeah, because of new Stormcast. But like you suffered a lot to mortal wounds. You're not bothered about that at all? You think more armor saves is good? Because I know that you were saying like it's going to be an armor save meta maybe in the future. Would you like to see that? Do you think that's fun?
I love that you're quoting shit that I have no idea what I'm saying when I say things.
This is how I lead conversations. Don't ruin the magic for the audience.
Do you know what? I'm well up for more numbers. Like
more numbers.
and more numbers. If they want to put more numbers on things, if they want to make better, well, maybe not better. I'd actually be better off with higher saves So like, give everything a 5 up. I couldn't give a shit, and just give everybody shitloads of damage. So then it's just chaos, absolute carnage on the table, and you're just kicking each other's dick in, and you get a game done in about 4 minutes, and you can get to the bar.
All right, that works for me. James, how do you feel about maybe higher armor saves in the game?
It's such a weird one, isn't it? Like, if they add in higher armor saves and then go like Warhammer 40,000 and add just ridiculous amounts of rend, then it's pointless anyway, isn't it? And also, it's like one of those things, isn't it? Like years ago when there was like 6 things in the game that did a mortal wound, and now most things or armies, I think every book's got a way of doing them, hasn't it? Some more than others. I think like if there's a guy, that big Stormcast guy with the 2-up save, who's in more armor than probably anyone could stand up in, fine. But I think like just save it. Save those 2-up armor saves for like a Bastiladon and him, and maybe like, I don't know, Chaos Warriors who get no love.
A little bit of a myth actually about the armor that it's not very easy to move in. You know, like full plate of metal. Like we traditionally think it's quite clunky and it's quite hard to move around in, but there's some really good videos of some guys doing like roly-polies and some acrobatics basically in full plate armor. Which yeah, you know when people are like, you can't move around that, then some I don't know, Polish fellas stick it on and just run nuts at each other, and you're like, fuck, it's pretty fast. Like, there's a YouTube video. I'll try and find it for you guys. Like, I'm not finding it right now, but just a little side note. So they might be able to move...
fast and loose with that really good video phrase, that's for sure.
Really hurt me. I don't know where to go from there. Nathan showed me a really good video about Zimbabwean soap, if you guys want to watch that as well.
Nice.
Fair enough. That's good use of the words. Good.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Prove me wrong again. Fuck.
Thanks to Zurich for highlighting his message. Big love to you. Nathan, how do you feel about the increase in armor saves? And also about the Soulblight Gravelords in... I think there are 2 builds in the book. And that doesn't mean only 2 lists. I just mean there are 2 directions you can take the book. You obviously can't build a shooting castle list or a magic castle list because they don't do that. You also can't really build much of an Alpha Strike list, I don't think, because it really relies on you normally deep striking something and rolling a 9-inch charge. There aren't many pluses to charge. So I think there are 2 kind of builds. There's a lot of hordes and maybe focused around zombies, and then there is also probably a high armor save army, and maybe there's a kind of like a parallel between the 2. But the first one, we'll start on the first one first. How do you feel about there generally being like a lot of armor saves inside the book, and how do you feel about that for like the game as all?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. It definitely makes mortal wounds stronger, but like James said, there's everybody seems to be able to do a mortal wound now. So it's quite hard to balance that. But it does mean that there will be certain units that will become very rock, paper, scissors against some other units, I guess. But there you go. But also bearing in mind that the AOS 3 leaks that we've had from AOS List Labs and and the Grimdark guys. And I think we've heard it from other people as well, actually, saying that they're expecting bonuses to be capped. You're only getting the 1 bonus. So +1 to save will only... You can put loads of pluses to save on, but you're only going to get 1 additional save, aren't you? So, that looks like that's more than likely going to be a thing that's coming up. So... bear that in mind as well. If you got loads of different sources of +1 to save, maybe only 1 will be of any use to you.
But it could be,
but
there's lots of 3-up. There's lots of 3-ups anyway, right? So if you can have it in multiple ways, then that means a lot of 2-up armor saves across the army.
Yeah, but the things that have got 3-up and 2-up saves are elite units. There's only going to be 1 or 2 of those. So they're going to be low model units, aren't they? So Blood Knights, you're probably going to have 5 or 10 of them. And obviously all the heroes are they're single models. So they're all things that can be outscored by small units that just won't engage them, just go and stand next to them and take their gold from underneath their feet, sort of thing.
I can see that absolutely. I think I think you're right. I think the problem with the armor save variant is that it's really reliant on it doing a ton of damage, like a ton of damage. A good example would be Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist and Flesh Eater Cores as was. They're 4-up armor saves pretty much, so they're like a little bit more susceptible, especially to long range shooting. But like their main trick was to go in and do a ton of damage. Like we're going to do so much damage, like offensive amounts of damage, and they ended up not being able to do so. I'm not sure. It's only meant to be for useful comments, James. Oh god, yes, the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist and the Flesh Eater Cores generally did a lot of output. I'm not certain if there's enough output in this army. Maybe not. But you can kit out Vordry and a Ghoul King and Vampire and Zombie Dragon to kick ass, I think. So yeah. Anyway, right. So that's you've thrown me now.
That was the point. Sorry.
Okay. Right. So let's move on. So the armor variants, ways of building it. I think that there's a thing there. So let's talk about the positives. I think you can run Blood Knights. Vordry's great. Manfred's great.
You can only run Blood Knights if you've already got them because they've sold out.
Have they?
No,
hasn't half of it sold out when I went on
loads
earlier?
of it. Yeah. I was on there earlier and loads of it's gone.
You can still get the person with the bat hair. You can still get the bats.
You can't get that weird half
the
and half
actual bats,
dodgy
like
conversion
actual
one.
bats.
The fell bats.
That are £10 a bat.
Yeah. So you can get fell bats,
No
the
idea why they
person
didn't
with
sell.
the bat hair,
Yeah.
the zombies and the skeletons,
Oh, perfect.
and that's it. That's all that's left. No battle tome limited. Oh, no limited edition battle tomes. No cards. No dice.
No dice.
No new 3-part thing. No Blood Knights.
Really?
3-part thing. What's the 3-part?
Yeah, the Rob.
The Vangori Lords.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a lack of eye. Yeah. So they're all sold out. Maybe they're just super popular. That would make sense, right? Like a lot of people have bought into Curse City, and then we've moved on to collecting the whole army. I think also that side is really popular. Let's talk about this though, because I think time will tell, and I think that the armor variants with all of the named characters, like we talked about, not the Vangori Lords, not rating those at all, but maybe. The Horde variant. How do you guys feel now? It looks like you can build a pretty competent build of zombies, and also if you throw in some Graveguard as well. Graveguard are brilliant. You could really buff them up to do some outrageous damage. So my question to you is how do you? I'll start with you, Adam. How do you feel about being able to like run hordes of zombies, or is that what you would want from like a Legions of Nagash style Gravelords book, or like do you want it to be more vampire orientated? You're confused as to why it's not.
I always like options. I like if somebody really is super into vampires and they're like, I really want a vampire army. I like the idea that they.
Oh, I think I lost you there, bud.
It's disappeared off the face of the earth.
It does seem to only be. Sorry?
Start again, babe.
We lost you.
Oh, did you? Yeah, so. Oh, I don't know where I was now. Yeah, and anybody who is up for the Nagash in the middle and shitload of zombies, that's great, and that's great for them. Anybody who wanted the sexy vampires and just run them and go like relive their twilight childhood, I feel like they're going to be a little disappointed, right?
Agreed. I think so. Nathan, how do you feel about the horde zombies? As someone who's painted up all your zombie-side zombies, you excited?
Yeah, I've got loads of zombies already, so I'll just add a few from the Curse City box to them, and that'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, I like playing with the horde army, so it gives you options, I think. even if you break the hordes up into small blocks and run them more like an MSU sort of list as well, that's quite an interesting option. I think it's quite thematic, isn't it? That's what when you think about Death Army, a lot of the time you think about loads of dead things wandering around, and then just the guys that are raising them up and pushing them where they want them. That's the fluff of that faction. So that's what you're getting. You also have the other side where you've got loads of vampires running around, which is more like the Blood Knight list, I guess. But yeah, in general, when you think of the undeath stories, that's what it is. Just masses of dead dudes running around, shambling around and just getting in the way.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. One of the things that strikes me about it is that it doesn't feel very necromantic as a book. Like, I know it's like when you read through it and you actually like talk about it as a book, like the summoning is very limited. Like, yeah, you wipe a unit out and then yes, you can maybe bring half the unit back from a gravesite somewhere. So that kind of works, but that really ties into you taking big bricks, which means you're starting off with zombies or skeleton warriors, like initially. So like, in order for that kind of necromantic way to really work, you're already starting off with something fairly chunky. Like, you can't even bring back Vargheifs because they're 4 wounds, so you can't even use Invocation to bring back one of them because it's 4. So like, it's just maybe you can just bring it back half wounded actually. But the point is, it doesn't feel like a very, like, if it's all about having the zombies and all about having the skeleton warriors, then you would want like some real like necromantic juice, right? You would want some cool spells that really like add to that flavor, and then you would want some cool like sub-faction maybe that adds to that flavor as well. And it just doesn't. I feel like that's where it misses the mark. I think you can build some great fun lists. Don't get me wrong. Like having the vampires on that. But what's cool, like interesting again, is if you want to run vampires, you can run your vampire characters who are on big monsters, and then you can run your blood knights, but you don't have like an on foot like set of vampire infantry, like, you know, kind of like Blade Lords or the Twin Souls. Not that either of those are good. But like, you know, like, because they're not. But like, you know.
Well, maybe that's what those characters are supposed to be. That rat one and the one with the mask. But just the points don't match up to that sort of effect, do they? Really?
I don't think
what you get. Yeah, you'd want them to. Yeah, they could do that role, because you do want. You do want there to be vampires running around doing stuff, but then when I think of vampires, I don't really think of them as things that would fight in a unit anyway. They're more solo sort of things. So yeah, but if they're not going to have all the other buffs, then why are they pointed as if they're buffing stuff around them? Unless in Age of Sigmar 3, if heroes just get access to a load of generic buffs, who knows?
Yeah, I think what Nathan's talking about again is those name characters that aren't wizards, and they don't have a command ability on their war scroll, which seems super weird. Especially Adam, coming off the back of you're playing Lumineth at the moment. Oh boy, they're not laconic with the rules on the Lumineth, right? Like, if you take Severith and then you compare him to like Luca-Vi, even like Severith's just like all over that, like on the rules. How do you feel about having so much on each war scroll? Are you positive it? Because one of the positives I've seen is some people, which I hadn't really thought about. Some people are like, I want a really simple war scroll, but I'm always the other way around. I'd like really simple battle traits and allegiance abilities, and I would like a complicated war scroll so that like if I'm not using it, I never have to learn it. Whereas if all of my battle traits and allegiance abilities are complicated, and then my war scroll is pretty dud, like I still have to always know the complicated things. Does that make sense? Like, how do you feel like with your Lumineth stuff, picking the stuff up?
Oh, it's the kind of biggest, the steepest learning curve is you've got things stacked on top of things. So you've got like the great nations. You've got all the spells you've got to learn, especially if you've got tech lists where you have to know them all. And then, like you say, then you've got a complicated war scroll on top. I would rather one or the other. And personally, I would kind of rather things that I don't need to remember or open the book for. So keeping it on a war scroll for me would be my preference, because then you've got the little war scroll cards you can have out, or you can have it on your app, and you don't need to go looking in loads of different places. Yes, Meatballs. Lumineth pickles your brain. I completely agree. And it's so easy to forget so many different things. So I quite like the look of this book, I have to say. It looks like quite a nice, straightforward. There's not a huge amount of complexity to it. Maybe it's going to encourage them destruction players away from destruction for a bit.
Yeah, potentially. Probably not, though. James, what about you?
I don't know. I think it's a really hard one, isn't it? I think realistically for me, if I go completely off tangent, like, I quite like stupid builds. Like, I'm that idiot that always runs something probably fairly dumb. So I like a book that I can sit and I can have a load of builds out of. I think is probably my first point. But I think for me the biggest issue we had, and I know we talked about it when we did the Lumineth show, but I think when there's a rule like on those Lumineth ones, so when we see the nice Singar where it's like in addition to, I'd rather not see those. So if they want to put like 9 rules on a model, put 9 rules on a model, but just make it 9 flat rules, because I think for one, as someone that might pick up and buy an army, it's easier to just look for a rule and be like, oh, I know that, like, I'm getting +1 to charge, but am I getting it from my banner? Or am I getting it from this trumpet? Or am I getting it from a rule on the banner that then makes the trumpet more, like blow harder or whatever? So I think that's more complicated. So I'd rather just them have just the rules separate. But I think there's also a place in the game for armies with less rules and armies with more rules, because I think especially when people start, quite often we'll talk about, won't we, like Beastclaw Raiders being a box set that's really good to come into the game with, because you can buy a whole army for 150 quid. And I think like there's a space for those armies with less rules and pop up rule books. And then there's a place to have those techie builds, and like you look at something like Magic the Gathering, which is like probably, I would say, the most successful card game in the world, and they have like layers of build with layers of competitiveness. So I think it works both ways, and I think like if we keep seeing a bit of both, it's not a bad thing, because it gives the community, the hobbyists, a choice of like, do I want a load of rules, or do I want like 5 models that are, less rules, can still play the game, and I haven't got to learn a load of things. So yeah, I think the mix is good.
I think obviously we talked about this before, like pitching rules like Blood Bowl, so that there are books that are meant to be more fun, and there are books that are meant to be more maybe competitive. I think is an interesting take. I think it's interesting books that are more complicated versus books that are more simple to run. I actually think I really like where the power level of the book is placed. I don't know if that's intentional, because I don't think it is, but I think that the power level of where the book ends up is actually fairly good, with at least there being 2 builds, like a Hero Hammer build and a kind of Horde build, that I can see you at least running, which I think is nice that there's that 2 options, and that they're quite distinct from each other, I think is a huge positive, because sometimes you don't end up with stuff that's fairly distinct. But then, we were taking the piss about the Lumineth book pretty hard, right? Like, we were like, in addition, yep. Like in addition, and we're not really saying that about this book. So I would say that like where do we really want, like, do we want it to be between this book and the next book? Because some of the stuff, like, let's just throw like our hat in the ring a moment. I mean, the White King's command ability doesn't really work in any way, shape, or form. Like, I would say 3 of, like, some people think that the Rat King and also the Lady are, like, fairly good war scrolls. I don't sit on that side of the argument. I think that they're if it's an argument, whatever. Like, I think that they're just worthless, like, boring war scrolls that took maybe 4 minutes to come up with. I argue maybe less, 2.5. Like, they're pretty boring. So, like, where do we really want books to be pitched, I guess is my question. Like, because those two, I don't think either of those two war scrolls is overly fun either. So, like, do we want Lumineth? Adam, do you want books like Lumineth, or would you wish that they pulled back a little bit? It wasn't quite as complicated.
I definitely wish it was a little bit simpler.
Okay.
But the main thing for me is you don't really know. Like, how does somebody who's just starting the hobby, right?
It's a great question.
How do they know? Like, they can walk in and go, oh, all of these shiny elf boys. I always loved playing elves when I was a kid. I'm going to pick them up. Oh, fuck, I have no idea how to play. They'd be awful.
You're right.
But yeah, similarly, somebody might go and pick up orcs, and if somebody's picked up elves, somebody's picked up orcs, they can turn up and be like, oh, cool, okay, great, and somebody's gonna have a good time, somebody's gonna have a rough time. But yeah, if all books came out a bit more like this one, like the Gravelords one, I think it would be a bit of a happier place for people.
I agree with you. I think that, like, I don't want to, like, let them off the hook, though. I still think that there are some things that could make this book a lot better. I think some of the sub-factions are a tad lazy, and they're not quite as elegant as some, like, maybe the Seraphon sub-factions to make you play differently, and I think some of the War Scrolls are just outright, like, they're just boring, like, which is probably the biggest sin. I don't think it's the fact that Slangor are good or bad, like, or that they're overcosted or undercosted. They're just boring. Like, when you talk about the Twin Souls for Slaanesh, you at least are talking about, oh, you can be in one phase or the other phase. Even the Blade Lords, you're like, oh, like, I can auto hit. That's like, there's like, at least there's a thing to discuss about them. Like, when they do nothing, you're like, oh, that is dry. That is the worst. Yeah, Nate,
Leave
you got any
Liberators
thoughts?
alone, mate. Leave them alone.
Yeah, Nate, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, like I said, I quite like the two war scrolls that you're talking about. Those, the Rat Lady and the Mask Lady, because their abilities are quite. The ability part of it is quite fun, but it's just they don't interact with the rest of their army.
Yeah.
Really, unless, I mean, obviously everybody gets generic command abilities, so unless something more fun happens with those, or are they just those command ability caddies sort of thing? Is that what you need in your fight when you're out and about? Are those things going to become more important?
Like, so if the rumors are true, then, like, unit champs are able to do, like, command abilities as well. So, like, if you're doing command abilities, like, from everyone, then, like, you don't really need a command abilities caddy, right? There's just, like, what's...
exactly.
Like,
so
then, what... Go on.
So then why would anybody take those? So, that's the strange part about that. Those two in particular, really. Otherwise, the book is more simple than the Lumineth book, but then I think it's good that they have arranged that if you're into trying to do a really complicated thing, then go and play elves and have a great time. And if you want it more simple, then go and play orcs. But it's just, and that sort of fits the fluff as well. It's just, do the vampires, where do they sit on that scale when you think of them fluff wise? I guess probably somewhere in them. You would think they're slightly more complicated because you've got these necromancers and stuff trying to do complicated things. So, so maybe they've fallen short on that side, because I think the people that are most upset are obviously the people that have been playing that army before, and they're upset because they've lost a lot of those little complex little things that they've had. Yeah, they've gained a few extra things, but not anywhere in the same level of what the stuff is that they've lost. Even if it's not power level, it's just the number of rules they've lost is different. They've lost more rules than they've gained. So And maybe that's the sort of game that they like to play. Something where they can weave a web of synergies, and they just don't have those tools anymore.
I think I would agree with that. I think the book is so interesting, and I think almost all of the books are interesting because, like Nathan said, there's no trend. Like, you go from, like, it's pretty wild. You're like, okay, you've done a really good job of updating some War Scrolls in Broken Realm of Marathi. Like, yeah, okay. Like the turtles are cooler, the sharks are cooler. Wait, you can't pile in 3 inches. What's this thing about? Okay, let's talk about that. That's really fun. And then you get to Sloppity Bar Piper, and you're like, and we'll ignore idolaters for a minute. You get to Sloppity Bar Piper, and you're like, okay, yeah, nice. I like what you're doing here. This is you're really stepping out. Like, you're really thinking things through. Let's go. What are we thinking? And then you get Lumineth. You're like, oh, you are thinking big picture. You are going out there. Okay. And then you get to this, and you're like, oh, this isn't that same department. This is like, Lumineth was like, I don't know what day is most productive for people. Tuesday, and then this was like Friday afternoon, I think, in some ways. But that's not to say it's bad though, because I don't think it's bad. I think it's just like I don't think it will reward the player consistently for playing, I think is my point.
Well, I think there are books that have got simple rule sets, but you can get a lot out of them, like the Big War book. It's quite a simple set of models in there. It's not a big range, and the buffs are very straightforward. I'm gonna watch onto these guys up, and then I'm gonna teleport them, and they're gonna run over there, and they're gonna hit things. It's fairly simple, straight. But there are little nuances that you can do with those lads. But but that's what you expect, and I am expecting when the destruction stuff comes in the Kragnos thing, that'll probably be more of the same. A nice simple rule set for us destruction dudes. But yeah, we'll have a good time running them around.
Remember when buffing up and teleporting was like look at that crazy combo.
Yeah.
Like you could do 2 things to a unit. Woo-hoo!
You can do them all now, baby. You could do it. You could do them all. Well, listen. What we'll do is next week we'll go through the War Scrolls in detail, and we'll have a big long chat about them. I think it was nice to just kind of get a vibe at the moment for them about it all, because I think that there's some really interesting things in there, and I'd like to settle on it a little bit more. I think, although we've been through it a couple of times this week already, I think ultimately, I think the book isn't bad, and I think that there's some really positives. I love the zombie War Scroll. I love murdering an Archeon and putting a mini Archeon in my zombie horde. I think that's cool. I'm really into that. I just think the vampire side of it is confusing. That's where I'm at. Not to say there aren't some amazing stuff. Cloak of Mist and Shadows, hard built into Manfred. That's fine. A bunch of Vordry can be a full dick kicker. I think that's quite cool as well. Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon losing the Chalice of Blood and Darkness this late into the who was complaining about the heal D6 wounds now? Who was complaining about that? Ever for a long time. I remember when you used to play it, and you used to play against Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon. You take him down to 1 wound. You'd be like, yes, and he'd be like, ha ha ha! My hero phase, heal D6. Oh no, heal another D3.
Heal another 1 wound, yeah.
Yeah, he was the worst.
Yeah.
But now he's not that. Now he's fine. So it's okay. All right, cool. Well, let's we'll go through those next week. Let's end the show today. Let's end it here, if that's okay with you guys. Have you got any plans this week, James?
I think I might try and get a game in. No, we can play inside. So I haven't booked anyone yet. But we can play inside. Absolutely no idea. I haven't got that far. But I probably should get some games in. So I'm going to probably try and get our game in maybe. But I'm not sure what of.
What do you want to play at the minute? Because this is the thing coming out of lockdown. And people have to be like, what army am I? Who am I now?
Well, it gets even worse because I'm super hype about playing Necromunda at the moment.
Okay.
I don't know how to play Necromunda.
You're the one. Oh, okay. I wondered who was playing that.
that one guy. It's definitely James.
It's just me. Well, they brought everything. I own everything now. That's the worst part, right? So we went into lockdown and I had, I think, 8 Age of Sigmar armies. And we're coming out of lockdown, and I think I have.
Didn't you do Warcry as well?
Yeah.
During the course of lockdown, and now it's morphed.
Yeah, I played that anyway. So I'd played a bit before. Still think that's amazing. But like, came into lockdown with I think 9 Age of Sigmar armies. I think I'm coming out with 11 armies, a 40k army, a Necromunda team, and 4 Warcry teams. Oh, and Lord of the Rings army.
Don't you also own 73 Gandalfs?
As many Gandalfs as possible. Sexy Gandalf.
Okay, all right. Adam, you going to get any games in, or you got any plans? You're going to keep painting those lovely Lumineth?
I've got 2 days booked at Warhammer World because that all opened up today.
Wow.
So we can book up tables. So I phoned up after, I don't know if anybody tried to do it today as well, but they're like, yeah, you can now phone up and book. You phone up, you book, you try to book, you wait for about 20 seconds, and it goes, we're really sorry, we can't take any more calls. You've got to hang up and try again in a bit. So you just keep and trying. I eventually got through, booked a table, and then booked another table. It was great. Can't wait.
Nice. I booked up 8 tables. I'm not going. I just booked 8 tables. That's a joke. Nathan, what about you?
I'm still quite busy at work, so I doubt I'll get gaming. It would be nice today. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game that I can't talk about that's going to come up.
We'll talk about it soon.
Yeah, and then and to be honest, on the back of what we've said, I've got the Cursed City, I've got the zombie side. Yeah, I've not even contemplated playing Death before, but yeah, I might even give them all just combine them together and just see if that's enough for a game and just push it around a bit because it looks fun enough. Yeah.
Kragnos is far too close. There's no way you're going to do that.
You just need you just need a corpse cart and a necromancer, and you're off, mate.
Yeah. Well, I've got there's a necromancer in zombie side, so I've got a necromancer, and then I've got Radikar in his court, and there's some more zombies and skellies in there.
Yeah.
There we go, and I've got loads of zombies in the zombie side book. So
to be fair, Radikar's like 700, 800 points, so like you got most of the army there, mate. Like...
yeah. Exactly.
I mean, not a good one, but you've got one.
I know, but I reckon it'll be a fun one because that court is quite fun actually.
Yeah, it is.
Looking at the rules, so yeah, I'm in. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's not what I was expecting from today's show. Nathan as a death player, but okay, fascinating.
What about you, Rob? Are you got any games scheduling? Or...
No, I've just got to do all the tech for the Super Series stuff. Make sure, like, I've got to kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy, to quote Will Smith. I got to make sure like all the technology works. I can't. Just because he's a Scientologist, I can quote him. That's fine. Like that was Independence Day is a great movie, but yeah, I got to make sure all the tech works and all that other jazz, which is fine. Like,
is that when he was converted?
During Independence Day?
Yeah, fighting those aliens.
He won though, so like, I don't know.
Isn't that's Top Gun, not Independence Day? He's
not in Top Gun.
No, he's not. But it was fucking that quote is from Top Gun.
No, that's from Independence Day. 100% seen it way too many times.
Does he copy it?
Yeah, let's see. The chat will know.
Yeah, okay. You're the worst with movies. Fuck you.
He's actually very fucking good with movies, unfortunately.
All right. Getting jiggy with the tech. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing this week. I'll be getting jiggy with the tech. We'll be sorting out some other bits, so that'll be me this week. Because we've got our events coming up soon as well, so there's just loads to do. But then in a couple of months, all the training will be done, the venue will be perfect, we'll have all the assets to do all the live streaming forever. I'll just be playing games and fucking live streaming from my life, and like what a great life that'll be. So finger guns to the moon. Yeah, thanks. Just a few more months.
Well done,
anyway.
you. Applause.
Merci beaucoup. All right, well, thank you very much for you three for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I very much appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's joined us live. You guys have been great. Thanks. Join us again next week. We'll go through all the War Scrolls for Gravelords. Thank you to everyone on the podcast. Stay hydrated. And thanks to all of the YouTube thugs. Don't forget also, if you guys are getting out there into the real world gaming, you can pick up our objective rings. If you type !merch in the chat, you can pick up our objective rings, which I've seen the more I always love seeing a little picture of someone's game and they've got the little objective markers on. That's always super cute. So yeah, if you want to use those in your games, they're really useful. They do mean that your opponent will know where the objectives are, which some people think is a negative, but generally positive that everyone knows where the objectives are, I think.
Can't people can be proper twats sometimes.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Yes, they can.
But
of course,
I just big shout out, while you're talking objective rings, because at the moment, every time we do one of these Age of Sigmar shows and talk about the objective rings, some sell, and I look, and they're all 40k. So, big props to all the 40k lads watching.
all right. Have you guys got any shout outs before we head out today?
No, that was mine.
All right, good. Adam, do you want to shout out your bro?
Yeah, I'll shout out my brother. He won't be watching because he's a 40k nerd these days. But yeah, big love to Big Bruv. Sounds weird.
He's great. Nathan, who are you shouting out?
I'll shout out Radikar.
You're a death player now. What the fuck is going on?
Radikar the Beast. Is that what it is? Is Radikar the Beast?
Yeah,
that's
Radikar
definitely
the Beast.
a stag do name, isn't it?
Yeah.
He earned that on a stag do.
Or as Scrivo said earlier, Radikar the bigger one. And I was like, that's it. Nailed it. Absolutely the name. Right, okay. Well, you're all brilliant. Thanks very much. We're going to go do a raid now. I've found someone who's painting some Cursed City models, I think. In non-metallic
Should we call it a
metal.
pillage on a Monday night?
Yeah. I mean, you can raid in the olden times as much as anything, right?
Pillage the village. Let's do it.
Let's go pillage that village. Thanks everyone for tuning in. You've all been amazing. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you to everyone for the gift subscriptions, for subscribing, for the donations, all that stuff. You're all great. Look after yourselves. See you soon. Bye.